we're going to learn how to add a dark mode to any website you have. At the top here, we have added a little toggle button that when we click it, we can switch between our light and our dark mode. This is a very simple and beginner-friendly tutorial, as I will teach you step by step all the JavaScript, CSS, and HTML we'll use to create this theme changing button here. If you would like to follow along on this tutorial, this is actually a website I have made previously, which you can see in the description below. You can watch that whole video if you want to make the website from scratch. If you just want to add a dark mode, then go to the description of this video, click on the GitHub link, and then you can go and download this zip. I'm going to drag my downloaded folder into Visual Studio Code. I'm going to trust the authors. And now we see we have the website starting point without the dark mode. Now this file is a carbon copy of the finished website portfolio that you can watch in the other video. But this one doesn't have the dark mode just yet. As well, it doesn't have the inverted pictures that we're going to be using to add our different modes. So for every one of these PNGs, we're going to have an alternative version of them. Therefore, I would like you to open the description and go to the asset link, and there is going to be a GitHub repo, dark mode assets, which is basically just going to be a new file for you to download. Once you have downloaded and unzipped it, you are going to drag this asset folder into the project you just made, and you're going to copy the folder and you're going to replace the existing assets folder. And here we are going to have two versions of each of these images. And now we are ready to start implementing our themes. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our HTML, our index.html. Let's close the Explorer here. And then we're going to hit the little button down here. If you don't have this Go Live button, you're going to download the extension here. You're going to download Live Server. You're going to search here. Live. It's usually the first one, Live Server. You're going to go and install here. Once you have that installed, you're going to have the option of going live. You're going to hit that, and that is going to open the project in your browser. As you can see, the icons here are not showing properly. That is normal. It's because we have changed the naming a bit, but we're going to be fixing that shortly. As well, I want you to go up here in the view, and I want you to turn on word wrap so that we see all of our code nice and neat, regardless of the width of this screen. So to start off, if you haven't created this website from before, this is the HTML showing basically the whole layout here. We have our, let's see, we have our navigation in here. We have our hamburger navigation here. We have our profile section, which is this part. We have our about section here. We have our experience, etc., etc. These are all the sections of our page, and then the footer, and then we are linking to our script file down here. The way we are going to do this tutorial is we're going to go through the index.html first. We're going to change a couple of things in order to link up our dark mode. Then we're going to continue adding our actually styling for our dark mode, and then we're going to finish with adding the JavaScript logic to switch between the two modes. So the first thing we're going to add, if we open this menu, we see that we don't actually have a dark mode, light mode toggle button. So we're going to add that button in our nav. So under this last list element, we're going to add a new list. And inside of here, we're going to add an image. And this image is going to have a source to the new picture that we have here. And we see if we open the pictures here, we see, let's see, it's going to be called theme in the bottom here, theme light. And that is going to be the default button. And then when we go to the dark mode, it's going to be the theme dark. It's going to be the moon. So we're going to link to this theme light first. So source, it's going to be dot slash, then we're going to go into the asset folder, then we're going to write theme and choose the light one. And for alt text, we can call it color theme icon, like so. So now we have our default theme. It is not showing up yet because we are actually needing to add it in two places. in the way we have made this menu. We have a separate hamburger menu from the main menu that we have here. So we're just going to copy this link that we made and we are going to put it in this second menu as well. So paste it there. If we open now, we see that we have an icon. It's huge. We haven't given it the height styling yet, but we see that it's there. So that's working. Now in our two list elements here, in our image actually, we are going to, let's make this a bit more tidy so we can see. In our image, we are also gonna, in addition to source, we are gonna add, and in addition to the alt, we are gonna add two new attributes here. We are gonna add a source dash light, and this is going to be equals to dot slash, and then we're gonna actually link to the light theme again. So theme light, and I'm going to be explaining why in a moment. And then let's just copy this down like so, and let's change the light here to dark, and the same here, theme light. It's going to be theme underscore dark PNG. Like so. There we go. So the reason that we are doing this is because we want to be able to, this is our default image that we load initially, and then we're going to be switching with the dark mode, light mode, we're going to be switching over to this one. So the first time we're going to be switching over to source dark, which is going to be this picture, and then we're going to be switching over to source light, and then we're going to be alternating between these two. But on initial launch of the website, it's going to be this first source. So that is why we have three of them. In addition, in order to target our icon later on in our JavaScript, we're going to give it an ID, because it has to have a unique and original identifier for the website, and we use ID for that. So we're going to give it an ID of mode toggle, and then let's just copy, we have also a class we want to add here to style it so it's not so huge. We are going to give it the class of icon and color dash icon. That might already fix the sizing. No, we haven't added that yet. Okay, so now we have everything. Let's just copy this over to our, let's copy the whole list element actually, because it's identical down here, and we're going to paste that in like so. And then if we zoom out, let's get to the desktop version like so, we see that we have our element here. I'm going to stay on the desktop version. It's not the prettiest site, but so that we can see it just like this. When we click it, nothing happens because we don't have any logic yet. But we have added our image correctly. Let's zoom back in so we see a bit better. And then we see we have our button here. We're going to style that so it looks better later. So that's all for adding our buttons in the HTML. We can actually close our nav by pressing here. We can close our hamburger nav. Then we are going to fix these broken links to these all these icons we are using here. So if we open the profile section, we see that we have profile pic. That's still intact, but it's our LinkedIn and GitHub. So if we Control F, let's just search LinkedIn, and then you see we can go to the occurrences of the word LinkedIn. We see here we have our image and assets slash LinkedIn. That is now being renamed to LinkedIn Lite. So we need to change this one to LinkedIn Lite. So let's just do that right away. Underscore LinkedIn Lite. And because we're going to be changing between light mode and dark mode, we're going to do the same as we did up there with the icon. we're gonna add a source light, which is gonna be equals to /assets /LinkedIn light. And then we can just copy this down again one more time and add the dark version as well, like so. LinkedIn dark. LinkedIn dark, like so. Then we are also gonna add a class here, a new class. We are gonna call it LinkedIn icon, like so, for styling purposes. And now we see we have our LinkedIn back. We have maybe LinkedIn somewhere else as well. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, we have it down here. We're gonna fix it there as well. So we can just copy the entire image here. And let's use this still Control F to find the other occurrences of LinkedIn. And that's in the bottom here. And we see we're just gonna switch this whole image here with our new LinkedIn. If we scroll down, we see it's fixed. Okay, and now it's just rinse and repeat. I'm gonna show you a way to do that in one go for all of these elements. So, but first let's just change the GitHub here as well. So GitHub, that is there. We see that appears in quite a lot of places, 3 places. So we are gonna do the same here. We are gonna actually just change this image with the same pasted feature. And here I'm gonna show you how to change things in one go. So you're gonna target LinkedIn. You're gonna hit Control D. And then we're just gonna change all of these. For every Control D you hit, it's gonna target one more. So just target all of these. And then we are gonna change that to GitHub, like so. And we see that that made our GitHub and also the link work. So now I think we don't have any more GitHubs. That's all for the GitHubs. GitHub. Sorry, we have also this link, but we are not using a picture there. So that's all we need to change in our profile section here. Okay, so then we can close our profile section. We can close this, Control F, see a bit better. Then in projects, actually about me, let's see, that's in about here. We also have, let's see, we have experience, which we also need to change. Same thing here. We are gonna add underscore light. Save that. We see that it pops back up. Same here, underscore light in the education, and that makes it work again. We are also gonna add our source light equals to, and let's just copy this because that is the same, and then let's copy it one more time down and change the light. So remember, Control D, and then change that to dark, like so. Now let's just copy this part down under here and change experience, Control D, to education, like so. And we are also gonna add, no, we're not gonna add any additional classes here. That's all good. So then we can move on to our experience section. Let's close about, let's open experience. Here, same exact thing. We're gonna target all the check marks because all of these are check marks. So let's just target them like so. Actually, let's make one finished here. Let's copy paste in, or just write in here, source light equals, let's copy this part in there, and then we are gonna copy this source light, paste that in there. We're gonna target the light, change it to dark, and we are gonna create the underscore light here, underscore light there, and underscore dark on the third one. So we see our first section is fixed, and now to not have to do that on every single one, we're gonna simply copy paste this whole thing. So let's just take the entire, let's see, from dark, source dark to source, copy that. Then we're gonna target the whole source here on the next article. You see that these are all similar, and we're gonna hit Control F, and that is the remaining 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then if you hit this arrow here, you can write what you want to replace it with. And here we're gonna paste what we had just copied, and we're gonna hit this button here, replace all. And as we can see, we now replace the source with the new source and the added source light and source dark. Control S, we see it's updated. And now we have all our images up apart from our email. Control F, email. This is also very useful to navigate through where you want to go instead of kind of looking through the HTML, which can be a bit of a nuisance. So here as well, we want to add email light as the default, and then we want to copy paste this down twice. We want to add source light using the default, and then source dark using the dark instead, like so. And then I think we only have one thing left, and that is the arrow icons. Like so. If we go to the desktop version, we see, yeah, the arrow icon here. That takes us to the different sections of the page. It is not showing properly. So we're gonna Control F, arrow. And we see we get our arrow here. We are gonna add an underscore light. We are gonna copy paste this down twice. Change this to light and dark, like so. And this last one to dark. So this is going to make a lot of sense when we start making the CSS and the JavaScript. Now we're just kind of changing the icons here to the same looking icon, so I get that it might feel a bit redundant, but we're going to see why it takes effect in a moment. So now let's copy this whole thing up, like so. Let's go to the next arrow, and we're going to give it the same source, save that, and I think we have one more. There we go. Paste that there, and now all the arrows should be working, and they do. There's 3 of them. Okay, then let's go back to the normal view, mobile view. The arrows are not showing on the mobile, that's why. Then we have our HTML completely ready for our dark mode, light mode. So the thing we're going to do now is we're going to create, instead of hard coding these colors on this page, we're going to create them using something called CSS variables. So we can close our HTML, we can close this PNG, we can also close this asset folder, and we're going to open our style.css. So we're going to leave pretty much most of this CSS intact. We're just going to add a couple of things and tweak a couple of things. So after this import statement, we're going to write colon root. This is where we're going to create basically our variables. And a CSS variable is something like this. So we're going to give it a name first, like primary color. And then we're going to say what that color is. So in this case, it's just going to be white. And save. So now, instead of, let's see, here's a paragraph. This paragraph is using this color. That's from before already. If we see we change that to red, we see that it changes the color. I'm going to go back to keep the color. But instead of hard coding a color for every part, if we scroll, we see we have text decoration color, color. We see on all of these, we're just saying one color for each line. Instead of that, instead of hard coding the color like this, we can instead reference this primary color that we made up here. So if we wanted to, I'm just going to make a test now. Test red. And that is going to just be red. So now I made a new variable with the name test red, and I gave it the color red. And instead of giving this paragraph a hard-coded color, I'm just going to call that new variable with the keyword var, and then these parentheses, and then I see I can choose here, test red, click that, hit save, and then we see that we have our new variable color applied to all the paragraph text. Isn't that cool? So that is the essence of how we're going to be able to switch between dark mode and light mode. Because in addition to this root, which is, I'm going to comment here, that's the default mode. That's the light mode. Light mode. In addition to that, we're going to copy paste this down. We're going to have the dark mode. And then in the dark mode, we are going to write these brackets. We're going to write theme, and we're going to say equals dark. So when the theme for the website, and we're going to be using this for the JavaScript later, when it's dark, it's going to be these colors. And if you see, the variable names are the same. But now I can choose to create this green instead. Oh, let's just write it green. And here I can say black. So now, although I have the same variable names for all of these different properties down here, all these different classes and IDs, they're using the same reference. They're still referencing test red here in the paragraph, but now when the theme is dark, test red is going to show this color. When the theme is the light, test red is going to show this color. And that's how we switch between different colors. That's how we can switch between different everything pretty much. Like, it's not only colors, we can choose different images, which is how we're going to be switching these images, because we already gave them, if you remember, in our index, we already gave them two different theme images. They're referencing two different themes here. So it's the same kind of logic we're using in our CSS. It's the same variable with different colors. So I hope that makes sense. It can be a bit confusing if you're doing it for the first time, but it's going to make more and more sense as we add all the colors and as we add the JavaScript logic. You're going to see it in action. So let's remove the test red. We don't need that. Let's create the root default themes first. So we're going to say primary color, primary color 2. And if you're wondering how I got up with these names, I have just been using the colors that I've found throughout the CSS, and I've basically changed them with the colors I see here, and I've tweaked them a bit. It's a bit of experimentation as you go, but I'm just writing them out here now and saving a bit of time. But you can tweak these as you want, you can change them. That's the beauty of CSS variables. You can change it in one place and see it affecting an infinite amount of classes that you use it on. So then we're going to copy this one down. And we're going to call it primary color 3. This one is going to be, instead of 250, it's going to be 181. Then we are going to copy it down one more time. Here it's going to be called background color. And here, instead of 181, Control D 2 times, it's going to be 250, like so. So these are quite similar, they're on the whites. And then we're going to copy paste down one more time. This is going to be called the secondary color. And the first one is going to be black. And then secondary color, copy paste secondary color 2. This one is going to be RGB 85, 85, and 85. And then we have copy paste one more time. We are going to say button background, and that is going to be, instead of 85, Control D, 53. Then we're going to create a new one called button text hover, and that is going to be gray. And then let's copy that down 3 more times. So the next one we're going to rename to button border, and that is going to be RGB 53, 53, 53, and then it's going to be 0.1 rem solid. And here we see this is not only a color, this is actually a border property. Let us actually copy this one down here. We're going to call this one border 2. And we're going to change the 53s here. Control D to 255, keeping the rem and the solid the same. And then the last one we're going to call container border, and that's going to be RGB 163, 163, 163. And that is all our primary, like default colors. So let's copy paste these default colors, and we're going to paste them into the dark theme. And we're going to keep all the variable names the same. How nice and easy is that? And we're just going to change the values. So black for the first primary color, and the 250s here, Control D, they're going to change to 39. The 180s are going to be 74. So here I'm basically inverting the colors to more black and dark modes. I have just trialed and errored to get these colors. There's no science to it. I've just looked at what looks right. You feel free to tweak them as you see fit. We're going to be able to see them in a moment. And the black we're going to change to white. The RGB 85 we are going to change to 170, and then the 53s are going to be 202. The gray is going to be light gray. The 53s here are going to be 202. The 255 are going to become 0. The 163 is going to become 92. There we go. We have our light mode and our dark mode ready. So now we are ready to implement our JavaScript. We're still going to need to tweak a couple of things when we see the dark mode, because you see it's going to be misaligned. We haven't really added the variables to our hard-coded colors down in our CSS, but it's going to be much easier to see what's left to do when we have our actual dark mode. So let's jump into our script file here. As we can see, we have a simple function that toggles the menu. That's this function here. And we're just going to leave that alone. We are going to go to line 8, and we are going to add our dark and light mode. Let's see, like so. Dark light mode. And here we're going to start by creating a constant for our two buttons. One for the nav menu in the hamburger and one in the desktop. So we're going to target our document and we're going to say get element by ID, because this button has an ID. If we inspect it, we see that it has an ID of mode toggle, and the other one on the desktop has an ID of mode toggle 2. So we're going to say get an element with the name with the ID of mode toggle. Great, and now we have defined that as button. So that's our button. Let's copy paste that down, Shift Alt down, and say button 2 is document get element by ID mode toggle 2. Save that. Now we have gotten a hold of both our two buttons. We're going to create another constant, and that we're going to call theme icons. And that's going to be equal to document dot get element by actually we're going to use another one. We're going to say document query selector all, because now we're not targeting IDs that are always one thing, they're singular. Now we want to target all with the class icon. And that's a bit of a different syntax, but it's essentially the same. Here we're just getting a hold of one thing, here we're getting a hold of all the icons that use the class icon. And also, let's be sure to wrap this in quotation marks, like so. So this is, you see it's a class because we're using the dot icon, and dot is for classes. Then we're also gonna create a constant current theme that is gonna keep track of which theme we're on. And we're gonna save our theme in a local storage, which is basically in your browser. So whenever a user goes to visit this website, in their local storage, you can save things like which theme is the preferred theme. So if we change our theme to dark mode and then reload the page or come back to the page, it's gonna be saved that we like to have the dark theme on, and it's gonna load the dark theme. That's where we're creating this local storage here. Get item like so, and then we're gonna say you're gonna get the theme, and we're basically saving in this theme property in local storage. And then the first thing we're gonna check, if we have been visiting this website before, we're gonna have a property that is current theme. So we're gonna say if current theme equals, and we're using 3 times equals here in JavaScript. If it equals dark, then we want to do some code. So that's the kind of the test here. If this is true, if current theme is dark, let's make sure to put 2 R's so we are targeting this property. If current theme, which is this local storage theme, is equal to dark, it means we've changed it to dark, then we want to set. Then we want to call a function in here. We want to set the dark mode. We want to change the colors. Set dark mode, and that's gonna be ended with a semicolon like this. So that is a function in itself. We haven't made that function yet, it doesn't exist, but it's similar to this toggle menu here. You see this function, toggle menu, that's the name, and then what the function does inside. So we are just gonna remember to create this function later, like so. It's gonna be some logic in here. And because we have a set dark mode, we're also gonna have to create a set light mode. And that's also gonna have kind of the reversed logic of the dark mode. Let's also be sure to define them as functions that don't exist yet, because here we're calling them without the function. So now we're creating the function. This function, set dark mode, is gonna do some logic. This function, set light mode, is also gonna do some logic. And now we are calling this function inside of here if the theme is dark. But how do we actually change to the dark mode in the first place? Well, this is where click events come into the picture. The same way we have a click event here, you see, class list toggle open, we are using a click event here. It is only being used in the HTML. Let's see if we can find it. It should be in our hamburger nav. Here we see, we are calling onClick here. So instead of calling it in the HTML like we're doing here, we're gonna call it inside of the JavaScript. So we're gonna target the buttons where we have button 1 and button 2. That you remember we had defined up here as our two toggle icons. It's these two. So we're gonna say button add event listener, and the event you're gonna listen to is gonna be a click. This is a pre-made thing you can choose in JavaScript. So you can choose to listen for clicks on your website on this button. And then what are we gonna do when that happens? Well, we're gonna call a function that doesn't exist yet, and we're gonna say, and what is this function called? It's gonna be called set theme. Like so. So when we click the button, we are gonna call a function, and that function is gonna be set theme. When we also click the button 2, we're gonna call the exact same theme, set theme. And that's why we are using another function within this function, because we don't want to duplicate our code here. Well, time to create our set theme. So the set theme is going to decide whether to call the dark mode or the light mode function. So what does it look like? Well, set theme is going to have to decide somehow, based on what mode we're on, which mode to switch to. So function set theme, we're going to create a new variable here with the let keyword. Current theme is equal to document dot body dot get attribute, and you are gonna get the attribute called theme. Okay, great. So we're going into the body, we're getting the attribute theme. Remember, that's what we had defined here. Theme equals dark. But at the start, it's just default. So document body get attribute theme. So document body get attribute theme. Then we want to say if the current theme is equal to dark, then we want to do some logic here as well. And you might be wondering why I'm using triple equals here and one equals here. One equals means that I'm setting this thing to this thing. So I'm defining this equals this. But when I use triple equals, I'm using it as a question. Is this equal to this? Oops, sorry. But when I'm using triple equals, I'm asking a question. Is this this? I'm not setting this to this. I'm not redefining current theme with this. Then I would have to do current theme equals dark. Then I would first be setting it to this and then resetting it to this. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm asking, is current theme currently dark? If it's not, this logic is not going to run. If it is going to run. So that's the difference between equals and triple equals. So if the current theme is dark, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to set the light mode, aren't we? Because it means that we have clicked. Because set theme, when is it called? When it's called when we have clicked either of the buttons. So if we click a button, set theme is rolling, and then it starts to decide, is dark theme on? In that case, set the light theme. And if not, else, which is if this is not true inside of here, then this is going to run. Else, set dark mode. And like so. Isn't that cool? So now we are kind of gone the whole way, function within function. We have defined our current theme, if it is dark or not. Then when we click a button, we call the setTheme function in any case. And then the setTheme is checking whether what theme we're on. If it's dark, if current theme is dark, we're going to switch it to light. If it's not dark, it means it's white, and we're going to switch it to dark. And then the only thing we have left is actually defining the logic in the setDark mode and the light mode as well. So here we're going to say document, we're going to say body, we're going to say set attribute, and we're going to say theme dark. Like so. This means that when we are calling the setDark mode, we're saying that the theme is going to be dark. Then we are going to say to the local storage, set item theme equals dark as well. So this is kind of the instance we have, and this is in our local storage. Then we are going to change the theme icons for each of the theme icons that we defined up here. That's going to be the LinkedIn, the GitHub, the check marks, all of those. We're going to say, when we're in the dark mode, for each of those icons, like so, for each of those icons, we are going to call another function. And here we're going to use a special way of writing a function called an arrow function. It means the same, it's just a different way of writing a function. So for each icon, we're going to run a piece of code. And then we're going to say, not plural, icon, for each icon. So for each icon, we're going to say icon, go into the source of the icon, and that is where we decide. If we see in the HTML, you see that in the icon source, that's the attribute here. This is an icon, you see here. It has the icon class here. That's how we're targeting it. And then you're going to say go into the source and change that. And here we're changing between this one and this one that we added in the start. So for each icon, go into the source, and you're going to make that the icon dot get attribute, and that's going to be source dark. And as you see here, that is this one, which has this path. So I hope that made sense. We are gonna do the exact same thing for the light mode. We're just gonna copy paste this, and we're gonna say here we don't need to have this initially because the theme is just a theme by default. We don't need to have it explicitly say light. But on the second one, we want to, because we are then saving it over each other. And here we want to just go and change the dark here to light as well. And that is all for our JavaScript. So I am curious, there's been a lot of typing and very little testing. Let's see if it actually does something. So we have a moon here already. We are clicking, nothing is happening. So interesting. Let's inspect our console. Cannot read properties of null. Reading add event listener. Script JS 23. Let's see. Button 2. So button 2. We might not have given this the right name. Button 2 mode toggle. We might have them be called the same thing. Let's see. Let's search for mode toggle. So we have one called mode toggle, and then the second one is also called mode toggle. So that's the reason we are getting the error most likely. IDs can only be once, and we are also calling something, referencing something that doesn't exist. So I saved, the error disappeared. Let's see. Still not working switching here. Now we're getting another error. Failed to execute set attribute on element. 2 arguments required, but only 1 present. Let's refresh our page like so. So we're getting, so we see that this is the error on script 47. That's line 47, that is this line. Document, body, set attribute theme. Let's give that a light property after all, like so. Switch, and we are switching. So with our light mode here, it works, but it's not supposed to be needed. Let's see it save again. Okay. I see. We are setting the attribute here. We just actually need to remove. Like so, because the absence of a theme defaults it to the light theme. It's only when we add a theme that it's dark, and when we remove a theme, it's just default. So let's try now, and it works. There we go. So now we are on light mode. Now we're on dark mode. As you can see, the images are the only thing that are changing, because despite us having made these primary colors, we haven't actually changed the colors in our CSS to use these variables. But that's pretty much everything we have left to do now. First thing we're gonna do is we are gonna say here, we are gonna say h3, and we are gonna say color, and that's going to be using a variable of secondary color. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to go into the body. We are going to go and write background color, and we're going to use a variable, and we're going to say that that's going to be background color. So on the light mode, it doesn't change anything. Let's switch to dark mode. Hey, that's cool. Now we have our dark mode starting to take form. As you can see, we have yet to put our variables on the hard-coded colors that we have, but as soon as we're changing those, it's going to be more and more like a dark mode. So let's keep it on the dark mode so we can see the changes as we go. Let's scroll down to this paragraph. We're going to remove the test red. We are going to give that a secondary color 2. Getting closer. This is the satisfying part. We are going to go to the nav links. We are going to align items to align the new logo we just made. Align items center, and then we are gonna remove this one like so. Then under nav links we are gonna target the nav and then the list item and then the last child, and here we are gonna target, and that's also the icon here because it's in the nav and it's the last child. Then we are gonna say that the width is gonna be max content, the display is going to be flex, and the margin is gonna be auto, and the padding is gonna be 10 pixels, like so. And that centers our logo here. Cool. Let's switch back to dark mode. Let's go into these A. We're gonna switch that from using the hard-coded colors here, black, to using the variable secondary color. And then as well here, instead of white hard-coded, we're gonna say use the primary color. And that's gonna change our A links as well. Then in our A hover, instead of gray, we're just gonna remove this actually. I don't think we need this button hover. Then we are gonna change this text decoration as well to variable, and that's gonna be secondary color. We are gonna add, copy paste this one, and we're gonna say nav A hover. That's gonna have a color of variable secondary color, and as well as a text decoration color of variable secondary color. So this is a lot of like tweaking because we already have a site from before and we didn't plan on having a dark and light mode. But as you can see, it's just you have to go and change all the hard-coded colors, but it's not more difficult than that. And here in the hamburger icon span, we are giving it a variable of secondary color. And the menu links, we are changing to primary color. Let's see, menu links. And for the menu links A, we are changing that to variable secondary color, like so. And then we can scroll down to, let's see, the title here. We're gonna add a color. It's gonna be a variable of secondary color, like so, looking good. Then let's find the button color 1 and 2. Here the border is also gonna be changed to a variable of button border, and also the color is gonna be variable secondary color 2. If we then go down to this point, button color 1 and button color 2 hover. Let's change the background to a variable, and that's going to be button background. And then instead of the white here, we are gonna have a variable, and that is gonna be primary color. And then button color one hover is also gonna be a variable of secondary color. And then button color 2 hover, we are gonna change to variable button border, and then it's also gonna have a background of a variable secondary color. And then the details container, let's see, 345 here, details container. Instead of white, it's going to be variable primary color 2. Instead of border here, it's going to be variable of button border. Instead of border color, it's going to be variable of container border. Then we can go down to the experience subtitle, and let's change that to variable secondary color. And let's scroll down to color container, change that to variable container border, and the background to variable primary color 2. Then we go to the project title, instead of black, variable secondary color, and the project button, instead of black, variable secondary color, and the border color is going to be variable container border. And then the contact, this is the last part, variable for the border button border, and then variable for the border color container border. And then for the background, we're going to say variable background color, like so. And there we go. Have we missed anything? We seem to be missing our title here, inspect. That is a logo. Let's search logo, and we see we do not indeed have a color set on it. Let's set a color for it. Color, and that is gonna be variable secondary color, like so. And feel free to tweak these colors as you want. Let's see, is everything correct? It looks pretty much like it, doesn't it? And we have our new updated color scheme. We have our dark mode updated perfectly. We've used a website that we have either made from scratch, or we've just altered a template that we had, and we can change the colors with a click of a button. And that is how you create a dark mode, light mode for any website you would like. We see in our desktop version, it looks really good. We have this nice animation. We see our arrows are showing up white, all our icons. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more like it, then there is a video here suggested for you. Please let me know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, and what video you would like to see in the future. Until next time, see ya.